I want to thank you all for coming to the Elm Street Grade Separation groundbreaking this morning. I want to particularly thank Mr. Jazz Bloom and the Lima Senior Spartan Band for warming us up with before music. And I believe if you're ready to lead us in the national anthem, may we all rise. Lima Senior Spartan Marching Band, thank you very much. This is quite a day. I'm glad we had the weather, and this day's been a long time coming, and at times I wondered if we would ever see it, but here we are. I want to recognize the elected officials who are with us today. We have a couple of councilmen, Jamie Dixon and Mr. John Nieper. Please raise your hand or rise. Any other council persons here? We also have Mr. Bob Cupp in attendance with us. Mayor David J. Berger, City Auditor Randy Bartels, and if there's any other elected officials that I've missed, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. Well, it was back in 1999 when a person named Gordon Proctor, who most of you probably have forgotten his name or never knew his name. He was the director of transportation, and then Governor, I believe Taft, announced that there was a $200 million initiative being set aside for grade separations, like we have in back of us. That was the first time we began to chase for the dollars that we needed for this improvement for the east side of Lima, which absolutely serves the entire community by way of transporting people to and from their destinations. It's been a very, very long road, and we have many people here to thank for all that effort. We had many, many letters of support, which were so critical to the success of this effort. Those letters of support came from Ohio Department of Transportation, Kirk Slusher, the Deputy Director of one, as well as his predecessors. They came from St. Rita's with Bob Baxter signing, and I believe Dale Giese had also submitted letters on our behalf. Mike Swick from Memorial Hospital, from the Lima City Schools, Jill Ackerman, from City Council, submitted several letters penned under the name of John Nixon. Both Chiefs Martin, Chief Black, Chief Hefner attested to the need of this grade separation for safety services, as well as their predecessors, Chief Brookman. The Allen County Commissioners, the County Engineer, the EMA Director, Tom Mazer of Regional Planning, Sheriff Striglia, as well as Krish, also submitted letters of support. AEDG, Downtown Inc., Aubrey Kay, the Lima Chamber, Jed Metzger, also Keith Faber, Matt Huffman, and Bob Cupp, and Health Department Director Kathleen Long, as well as the Rhodes State College Director Dr. McCurdy, all supported letters. Those letters all went into the calculus of ODOT, Department of Transportation, making a decision that this is really a community-supported improvement and helped find and dedicate funds for where we are today. Also, there was a very long public input process for federal highway funded projects. We had many meetings where public input was listened to by neighbors, by businesses, by elected officials. Those all went into how the project is going to be built. We also have very many funding partners, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. And lastly, I want to recognize Congressman Mike Oxley. Mike Oxley was here in his official capacity for a visit, and I recall him asking me to guide him around the downtown and talk about the improvements we were then making in the downtown. And then he asked me about what else we had on our planning tablet. And we talked about the Eastside Grade Separation. We talked about the need that when there were trains present here and blocked, that doctors and nurses couldn't get to their hospital to see patients. We talked about ambulances not being able to get patients to and from across the tracks. We talked about the commerce that stopped when trains were present and blocking the tracks. And I know I wasn't the only one that talked with him, but Mr. Oxley found a way to find $2.5 million through a federal earmark set aside for the planning and study and engineering of this project. Had it not been for the efforts of Congressman Oxley, we would not be where we are today. That was the catalyst. So though he's not here, obviously, we do want to make sure we express our thanks and gratitude and admiration of the kind of congressman that he was. I'd like to introduce now the Ohio Department of Transportation Deputy Director 1, Deputy Director of District 1, Mr. Kirk Slusher, to come up and introduce his staff as well as say a few words about the project.
Good morning. I had the opportunity to talk to Director Jerry Ray recently, and he is apologetic that he couldn't make it here today, but he certainly provides his best wishes to Mayor as well as you, Howard. They've developed a relationship over the last several years, and he really wishes this project the very best because something that's been near and dear to his heart. So first I'd like to introduce our Capital Programs Administrator, Chris Hughes. He's standing right there in the back. And then Lori Brinkman and Beth Clark are sitting here in the middle. Lori Brinkman is our local program administrator, and she has been one of the key players in making sure this project continues to advance on a daily basis. And then it's been a long haul for being able to develop this project. Beth has really has taken a lot of the lead role over the last several years in advancing the project. Also with us today is Scott Langels. Scott will be the person responsible for overseeing the construction initiative, since we'll have federal funds involved in this project. We may need to make sure that all of the certain requirements are met, and he'll be out here on an ongoing basis and making sure that the contractor's complying with all that. We also have Gary Kramer, who's standing there in the back, who is our EEO compliance officer, making sure that the contractor's in compliance with all EEO initiatives. And last but not least, I'd also like to introduce Dan Caseman. Dan is actually retired from the Ohio Department of Transportation now, but served the ODOT for over 35 years. Been a real key player in advancing this project from its initiative. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about is that the fact that I know Governor Kasich he's initiated a lot of policies and procedures through his administration. Some of them have been very positive, and some of them have been met with a lot of criticism. One of his initiatives very early on in his administration was to move the State of the State address around to different cities around the state of Ohio. And the City of Lima was very fortunate back in 2012 to receive the governor and his cabinet. And it was at that meeting, or that day, when Director Jerry Ray and his staff from Central Office met with myself, Dane Caseman, had an opportunity to sit down with Mayor Berger, Howard Elstro, Kirk Niemeyer, and talk about what some of the real transportation issues for the City of Lima were. And at the top of their list was, in fact, the Lima Grade Separation project. And so from that day forward, that's where this project really gained legs and being able to become a real project. As Howard indicated, it started clear back in 1999, but it was in 2012 really where I think Director Jerry Ray committed towards the project and found a way for us to advance the project to where it's at today. So that was a very key point. The other thing I would like to talk about is the fact that our mission here at the Ohio Department of Transportation is to provide easy movement of people and goods from place to place. We're going to take care of what we have. We're going to make our system work better. We're going to improve safety, and we're going to enhance capacity. I don't know of a project that embodies our mission here at the Department of Transportation more than what this Lima Railroad Grade Separation project does. When we talk about easy movement of people and goods, that has been a stumbling block here for this area of Lima. And anytime there's a train, you can't move from one side of the tracks to the other. So easy movement of people and goods is certainly a key aspect of this project. Improving the capacity, but safety, improving the safety and the safety services, being able to have a reliable transportation corridor going from the east side to the west side for emergency services certainly is a big part of being able to drive this project forward. So we are excited to be a partner in this project and advancing it. We're excited to be able to get to this point in the construction phase, and we're looking forward to having it completed here hopefully next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A little bit about the project. We've talked about how it's going to improve both flow for pedestrians, vehicular traffic, and obviously it does serve as the main egress into our community. It serves us two state routes, State Route 117 and 309. Probably many of us are unaware how much traffic actually uses these crossings. It's 35,000 vehicles per day. That's a lot of traffic going across these tracks each and every day. The project, when finished, we will have created about another 3/4 of a mile of new roads, curbs, sidewalks. The roadway itself behind me will be lowered 20 feet to get underneath the railroad. We will be installing stormwater facilities to drain the water from the underpass. It will include full aesthetic enhancements. It will be what we call complete street design compliant. Anymore, when we design projects, it's just not for vehicular traffic. We take a look at all modes of transportation and make sure we make allowances for that. But it will be completely landscaped. We will have lighting. There will be 6-foot walks between the parks to this area, as well as the intersection improvements at the intersection of Bell Fountain, Elm, and Calumet. By the way, there are, to my left here in this tent, there are renderings of what the grade separation will look like, what the traffic flow will look like. Please help yourself to water over there and take a look at those before you go home. Cost of the project is $13.8 million. About $2.6 million of that went into the planning, study, and engineering. The right-of-way phase was about 1.1. The construction that we're coming into now is about a little bit over 10 million. And I need to recognize our funding partners who have helped us and are helping us make this a reality. Ohio Department of Transportation, through their Transportation Review Advisory Committee, referred to as TRAC, is making a little over $3 million available for this. Might say that It was very interesting working with the track. They were always supportive, but didn't always have the resources for the years that we went down and asked for funding for this project, but ultimately came through with that last linchpin of funding that was critical. Department of Transportation is also making safety funds available, as well as transportation improvement funds available. So again, our thanks go to Jerry Ray, the director, the track committee, and central office has been so much help to us along the way, as well as our hometown District 1 personnel that Mr. Slusher just introduced. Also a critical funding partner was Lima Allen County Regional Planning. Tom Mazer is here. Tom, if you'd stand up. He's the guy with the new haircut. He helped us secure what they call congestion and mitigation funds, CMAQ funds, state transportation program funds, which are referred to as STP, and he also helped us secure the funding gap through the mechanism of a SIB loan, State Infrastructure Bank loan. Also, a critical funding partner and partner throughout this is G&W Railroad, I&O Railroad. Mr. Scott Sandoval is standing here in the back representing the railroad. Scott, would you raise your hand, please? Oh, thank you. The rest of the railroad personnel were off to an important seminar in Pennsylvania, was it, Scott? But they've been very, very cooperative in trying to help us get the engineering in place, getting the construction agreements in place, and they are also a funding partner. Of course, the City of Lima is using some of its permissive tax revenue receipts towards this project, as well as its stormwater and utility funds. And if you don't know it by now, you need to know it. We have two private funding sources represented by Mercy Health, St. Rita's, as well as Lima Memorial Health Systems, each contributing $50,000, and that was very, very important to the track. When I go down and compete for those track dollars, when Lima goes down and competes for those track dollars, the question that the track committee asked year after year, what is the local commitment to this project? And it was those increments of private donations that really leveraged that last $3 million, which leveraged the entire project to be done. So it started with Bob Baxter. Bob could not be here with us today. Dale Giese, the president of Mercy Health, is here. Dale, could you stand up and be recognized? Thank you very much. And from Lima Memorial Health Systems, Mike Swick was so helpful in securing that $50,000 pledge. He could not be here, but Bob Armstrong is here. Bob, could you? He's standing there in the back. Thank you very much. And of course, that $2.5 million federal earmark that I talked about that Congressman Oxley got us, again, in all there's 12 separate funding sources for this. So that all goes on the back of people like Lori Brinkman and Kirk Niemeyer, our city engineer, to juggle those funds and make sure that all the contractors get paid out of the various funds. Not all funds can be spent equally for all activities. They have different local matches. It really is cumbersome and a challenge to manage those, and we certainly thanks all the help from ODOT as well as my own local staff to get that done. Speaking of local staff, I just want to call out a few of the people in our engineering division that helped make this happen. Kirk Niemeyer, our city engineer, is standing over here to the left. Eric Bontrager, Larry Stoyanovich, Don Lamar, Jim Morrissey, and Joe Gearing, our stormwater manager, I believe is at a seminar today and could not join us. Our law department has been also very helpful with Tony Geiger, our law director, and he has made available Denise Van Dyne to help us with the right-of-way acquisition. With that, I'd like to introduce Mayor David J. Berger to add a few comments here. And then what we will do is move to turning some dirt.
Well, thank you, Howard. This Mother Nature also decided to cooperate today, and we appreciate that. It's a gorgeous day to be out here to really formally initiate a project that has been, as Howard delineated, on our radar for a long time. Back in the middle of the 1990s, we did strategic planning, which identified that the main corridor into the city needed to be a focus of our attention. And so over the last number of years, you have seen really a successive number of projects that have taken place on the Bell Fountain and Market Street corridor into the downtown. Those have included new traffic signals and decorative street lighting. They've included the investment that Lima City Schools made in the new Lima Senior High School campus, which those of you that recall, the neighborhood where Lima Senior is now located was once called the Snake Pit. It was our worst, most abandoned, most deteriorated neighborhood in the city. And those 40 acres are now home to Lima Senior High, and along with the investment that the schools have also made in Spartan Stadium, we now have as well the Stadium Park, which came together in the last several years with funding that from private philanthropy as well as the state of Ohio. And of course, the investments that private enterprise has made, including Lima Memorial Hospital, on this segment of the entrance. All of that has, I think, really made this entrance dramatically different. And this project, I think, will help put an exclamation point to that. If you're familiar with the grade separation that we built on Vine Street using ERA funds, we didn't just build a concrete jungle on Vine Street. We built a really attractive facility that also incorporates the complete street features that Howard mentioned and is really a beautiful structure. This too, thanks to the creative efforts of our architects and engineers, is going to be a beautiful structure. And I think it will enhance the experience of folks coming into our community and add, obviously, to the safety of traversing this area, as well as just the welcoming nature of this entrance. One other name I'll drop, because Howard dropped all the rest. One other name we should recognize as actually having been helpful to us is that of President Barack Obama, because it was his visit here in, I believe, 2011 or 2012, as he was here and then he was leaving, and his motorcade was literally approaching this intersection when the gates started coming down. And there were folks who, and of course the panic that then ensued with the Secret Service and everybody, you don't stop presidential motorcade. So there were folks there, and we have photographs of them, who were standing there trying to hold up the arm of the grade or the crossing gate so that the motorcade could go through. Those photographs were really a helpful way for us to punctuate what we all experience every day. Who cares if the mayor can't get across town, but when Barack Obama, the president of the United States, can't get across town because of that, you got a problem. So that became a feature of Howard's storytelling, as he presented before the track and before others that needed to hear why this was so vitally important. And so we also want to acknowledge the contribution, though he may not have known it at the time, that the President made on behalf of this project. So I too want to just add a word of thanks to everybody who has pitched in to make this happen. It's been a long slog, 19 years, bringing this together. It'll be a couple years of construction, but I really believe that at the end of this process, we will have a really beautiful new facility here that will enhance our community and, again, communicate to those that come once or daily through our community that this is really a good community that loves itself, takes care of itself, and looks to make things better. So thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to point out there are representatives today from three key players who have been in the design and are in the construction portion of this project. There are representatives from American Structure Point who helped with the design. Could you all raise your hand if you're here? Yep, here we go. Our project management firm is DLZ. I know you guys just came out of a coordination meeting. A couple of you here in the back. Thank you. And the construction company is Eagle Bridge. Eagle, are you present? Way over. All right. Now, I want to have you all pull out your phones and go ahead and put the date in for the ribbon cutting. That'll be November 2019. We will send you a reminder. Don't have to pull out your phone right now. I would like some help, though. I need dirt turners. So, if you would please, Mayor, come up and grab a shovel. Councilpersons, please join us. Bob Cupp, would you please come grab a shovel? As well as Bob Armstrong and Dale Giese. Kirk Niemeyer, please come up. Kirk Slusher, would you please take a handle? And Mr. Dan Caseman, you've been following this for so much time. Come on up. Tom Mazer. And Scott Sandoval from G&W I&O. And anybody else who feels like they ought to grab a shovel, come on up. But what we'd like to do now is everybody find a shovel you can put your hands on. Got to hurry up because Scott tells me there is a train scheduled to come through, what, 15 minutes? 10 minutes? All right. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank you all for coming, and again, we will have you back in November for the ribbon cut. Thank you.